Every single day, thousands of Filipinos walk through crowded airports, carrying heavy suitcases and even heavier emotions. Some are nurses heading to Europe. Others are construction workers flying to the Middle East. Some are domestic workers leaving for Hong Kong or Singapore. But almost all of them are carrying the same painful burden, saying goodbye to the people they love. For many families in the Philippines, goodbye is not a temporary moment. It becomes a lifestyle. Children grow up watching their parents through phone screens. Husbands and wives spend years separated by oceans. Birthdays are missed. Graduations are watched online. Some parents leave home when their children are still babies and return years later to children who barely recognize them. But why does this keep happening? Why are millions of Filipinos willing to sacrifice their happiness, their relationships, and sometimes even years of their lives just to work abroad? Today, we're diving into the emotional reality behind overseas Filipino workers, also known as OFWs, and the sacrifices that have shaped millions of Filipino families for generations. And trust me, you'll want to stick until the very end, because the final part of this story reveals something many outsiders never truly understand about Filipino resilience and sacrifice. Also, before we continue, kindly let us know where you're watching from in the comments below. And if you enjoy documentaries like this, boop the like button. It genuinely helps the channel reach more people.
For decades, working abroad has become deeply connected to Filipino life. In fact, millions of Filipinos currently live and work outside the country. They work as nurses, caregivers, sailors, hotel staff, engineers, domestic workers, factory workers, and healthcare professionals across different parts of the world. Countries like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Canada, the United States, Japan, and the United Kingdom have become home to large Filipino communities. And while many people see this as a success story, the reality behind it is far more emotional than most realize. The average Filipino worker abroad does not leave home because they want luxury. Most leave because they are trying to survive. In many parts of the Philippines, salaries remain low while the cost of living continues to rise. A father working a regular job may struggle to pay rent, school fees, transportation costs, electricity bills, and daily meals for an entire family. A mother working locally might earn in an entire month what overseas jobs can pay in just a week. Over time, many families begin to see overseas work not as an option, but as the only realistic path towards stability. And so, the sacrifices begin.
Imagine being a mother who has to leave her children behind to care for another family's children in another country. Imagine waking up every morning thousands of miles away from your own son or daughter while sending money home so they can attend school. For many OFWs, this is everyday life. Some spend Christmas alone in tiny apartments abroad, while their families celebrate without them back home. Others work exhausting schedules with barely enough rest, all while pretending to be emotionally strong during video calls so their children won't worry. One of the most heartbreaking parts of this reality is how normal it has become. In many Filipino households, growing up without one or both parents physically present is not unusual. Some children are raised by grandparents while their parents work abroad for years. In some cases, siblings become responsible for raising younger brothers and sisters. Video calls become bedtime routines. Airports become emotional meeting places. And every departure becomes another reminder that survival often comes with emotional pain. But despite the sacrifices,
many OFWs continue to endure difficult conditions abroad because the rewards can completely change the future of their families.
For many children in the Philippines, growing up with an overseas parent has become a normal part of life. Some children only see their mothers or fathers once every few years. Others grow up knowing their parents mainly through video calls, voice messages, and photos sent from another country. In many households, grandparents quietly step in to raise children, while parents work abroad to provide financial support from thousands of miles away. At school events, birthdays, and graduations, there is often an empty seat that represents sacrifice. Some children learn to hide their sadness because they understand why their parents had to leave. Others struggle emotionally with the distance, especially during important moments when all they want is physical presence instead of a phone call. And while technology has made communication easier, it can never fully replace real human connection. A video call cannot replace a hug. A voice message cannot replace being physically present during difficult moments. Some OFWs spend years watching their children grow up through screens, missing first steps, birthdays, school performances, and family milestones. Yet, despite the emotional distance, many Filipino children grow up deeply appreciating the sacrifices their parents make. They understand that behind every remittance sent home is a parent enduring loneliness, exhaustion, and homesickness in another country, just to create a better future for them. This emotional reality has shaped an entire generation of Filipino families. Despite the emotional pain, millions of Filipino families continue making these sacrifices because sometimes the results completely transform their lives. Across the Philippines, there are homes built through years of overseas work. There are students who became doctors, nurses, engineers, and teachers because a parent worked abroad for decades to support their education. Entire families have escaped poverty because one person was willing to leave everything familiar behind in search of opportunity. For many OFWs, the dream is simple. They are not chasing luxury or fame. They simply want stability. They want their children to finish school. They want their families to eat comfortably. They want to build a home they can finally return to one day. And in many cases, those dreams become reality. Some OFWs spend years saving every possible dollar while living modestly overseas. Many avoid unnecessary spending because almost every peso they earn is sent back home to support loved ones. Behind countless success stories in the Philippines is often an unseen sacrifice made quietly in another country. But even when financial success comes, many OFWs admit that the emotional cost never fully disappears. Some parents return home only to realize how much time they lost with their children. Others struggle to reconnect emotionally after years apart. Because while money can improve lives, it can never completely replace lost time. Still, millions continue making the sacrifice because for them, love means providing a future, even when it requires personal pain.
Today, airports across the Philippines remain filled with emotional goodbyes. New workers continue leaving every single day, carrying the hopes of entire families with them. And despite the emotional hardship, the cycle continues because millions of Filipinos still believe that working abroad offers the best chance at financial stability. For many families, overseas work has become more than just employment. It has become a survival strategy passed from one generation to another. Children who grew up with OFW parents sometimes become OFWs themselves later in life, continuing the same cycle of sacrifice their parents once endured. And perhaps that is what makes this story so emotional. Behind every airport farewell is not abandonment, but love. A painful kind of love built on sacrifice, distance, and hope for a better tomorrow. To outsiders, these departures may simply look like people travelling for work, but for millions of Filipino families, they represent years of loneliness endured in exchange for opportunity. They represent parents sacrificing their own happiness so their children can dream bigger futures. And maybe that is why overseas Filipino workers are often called modern-day heroes in the Philippines. Because behind the remittances, the airport departures, and the long-distance video calls are ordinary people carrying extraordinary burdens for the people they love. For millions of Filipinos, leaving home is not the dream. Giving their families a better life is.
Kindly let us know where you're watching from in the comments below. And if you enjoy documentaries like this, boop the like button. It genuinely helps the channel reach more people.